I was working on a video covering a topic Duty Red wanted to talk about, which was trespassing on ships. But while I was working on this, it was a very short video, I wanted to also cover this in the short video, that there is another major problem I've been tracking today, which is July 2, 2023, and that is the activation of Xenothreat without warning. So this is an in-game event that is basically knocking servers to their knees, and the response by CIG. Now, I'm going to leave it exactly the way it was on the Spectrum site, but do note I am not condoning reaching out to anyone's usernames that are listed here. I am not saying go contact them. I am not saying go for or against it. I'm just trying to show you what's going on. And in fact, it's highly likely that this will be moderated probably by tomorrow or the next day, even though this is a holiday weekend for many of the studios at CIG. Not all of them, though. So I'm guessing moderators from around the world will step in. So the gist is Xenothreat was activated without warning on a holiday weekend, no less than a Sunday, which is very strange because usually CIG does not do build releases on weekends. They don't usually flick on things on and off on weekends if they can possibly avoid it. They do have limited ship sale waves during major events, but this was not supposed to be a major event weekend that we know of. And so this one person decided to post up, turn it off, turn off Xenothreat, no more, burn it with fire, never look back, bury it in the desert, etc. Their passionate plea was mixed results, but I'm going to skip ahead once again. I'm not, especially people that are not CIG staff, I'm going to try just to avoid saying their names at all, but you can see them here. Not advocating for contacting any of these people, including the CIG folks. Here's what's going on. Xylo kind of jumped into the fire here from CIG. The Xenothreat event this weekend was quick and necessary 24-hour test and will not be running the traditional 8 to 12 days. Sir G ended up responding. Geez, I did it. Well, Sir G's a friend, so that's okay. But he said that you really need to tell people beforehand. A little forewarning goes a long way into making us not feel like we got kicked in the shins. So yes, Sergi for real is a friend of mine, at least in the game and on multiple discords. They're solid, and I agree with their perspective here. Silo responded back with, sometimes the team will run a test without messaging. It is beneficial to do so for the test. Now, this is the core message that CIG is trying to send. Xylo reaching out to the community and saying, look, teams sometimes need to put these tests in place without any warning, so we don't get, I'm inferring that we don't have a flood of people checking out the server because they're hearing new content or older content that hasn't been seen in a while is being switched on. Maybe this is a money, a profit making situation where they can get more credit. People are thinking, can I get my AUEC and hour number up? Can I get some PvP on? Can I get some fun mission content that I'm not used to on? Maybe that, getting org mates and friends that haven't seen older content on, like Xenothreat. Um, and there was mixed results. Once again, I'm not going to mention any other names as best I can that aren't CIG staff. And yeah, but basically some people were saying this is great. Other people are saying, can you give us a little more information? What's going on? I myself even posted that I don't think this was a good idea. At least pop a message a few hours out into the servers, letting people know how the XT risks are bringing the servers to the knees like they did today. And basically the deal is Xenothreat is extremely intensive on servers. It is not, I'm just going to come and say it, it's not that polished. It's also an event where there's a heavy amount of PvE and some PvP content. So it's kind of a PvX event. It's got a lot of moving parts. It's got a lot of messaging that happens in game. There's a lot of loaded things that happen, ships that we don't normally see. And unlike Fleet Week, where some of it is not really there per se, a model of an F8A that's loaded onto the ship floor is not the same as an actual ship you can fight. Even the fleet is on like a script and it's running around. It's not doing that much intensive stuff. Whereas Xenothreat, the whole point is that you're fighting constantly more and more and more of the enemy ships, and there's extra load on this contract service system. messaging platforms, not every single, but most of the services of a server are really put to the max. It is entirely plausible, again, me inferring here, speculating even, you could argue, that it is highly likely that they were attempting to stress test the servers for some unknown reason on a Sunday of a holiday weekend where a heavy amount of users were online, myself included. And I was seeing servers that were quite full. I actually experienced a couple major concerns. I started seeing heavy amounts of desync around a spaceport, so I moved from the US to the EU servers, and that's as far as I got when I realized that this is clearly something bigger. So, and immediately I went to Spectrum, didn't see much, went on Discord, started seeing all sorts of anecdotal stories, but no official messaging from CIG. Then a short while later, the SC news feeds all over started clacking about Xenothreat announcements, but it was clear that it was sent by community members, not by CIG. Now, Xylo posting up at 9:46 Eastern Standard Time, only 3 hours before I'm making this video, is is quite surprising, unfortunately, because this was all happening early afternoon for us. So it was probably up 5 or 6 hours by the time he posted. So not that great, but at least somebody stepped up. He stood into the fire and really took some here. And I do appreciate the communication Silo makes. Also, there is a consensus among a few of us that it's highly likely that Xylo is not making the decision, obviously, to start this up. He's more community managing this situation and just saying, look, I'm like probably, me speculating, I'm logging in from my home or my phone or something on the weekend just to post up that, like, we're working on this. We didn't intend this to be a problem, etc. Now, it also opens up another topic. We recently had a problem with CIG changing the prices of ships. The Cutlass Black, the Vanguard series with the hoplite, and then also the Blessed Little Titan. So you have three very critical ships, and I'm going to harp just one more time on the fact the Cutty Black especially is the most egregious value price increase without communication, because the Cutlass Black is one of the most common ships in the entire game. It is even a 5 or a 10 USD price increase in value, ship value, I should say, and then also price increase that, of course, comes with that, um, is critical because that will take you out of a certain bracket of ships, a tremendous amount of ships. I'll have a link at the end of this video talking about all the different ships that you can't use any longer because of the issues. And also, that was a good time capsule of another situation recently where CIG made a shadow decision, didn't respond to the community at first about it, and then stepped up and said, oh, shucks, we didn't mean for this to be upsetting people. We'll make steps to communicate with the community as soon as we have these type of things happening. But once again, starting Xenothreat and crashing all the servers, or making them highly, highly, highly unstable, and highly likely you will crash, or you'll wish you crashed and close the server anyway, just desperately trying to repair the game, and then you come back and it's over and over again having problems, so you give up, and then you go play something else, is not a good look, especially on a holiday weekend for a large part of the player base. For those that don't know, Independence Day in the United States is on July 4, and there are a lot of people that tend to have off or limited work hours leading from the holiday weekend, as they call it, into Tuesday, which is July 4. That's why I keep referring to that. Two of the game studios for CIG are in the United States. So, yes, it's not a holiday for everybody in the whole world. I get that, and there's plenty of other Independence Days. More power to everybody. But I just wanted to mention that it's that much more awkward that they would make a major decision like this that impacts, at the very least, U.S. servers and all servers. Who are we kidding? And the clusters, on a weekend like this where they're beyond skeleton crew. Anybody who could get off is going to have off, and any just by its nature of this weekend. So it's kind of like explaining some of the holidays in Asia impacting processor development and sales of CPUs and release dates and such and support and everything. It's the same idea. I'm not trying to like just point out how great a holiday is that it impacts me. It's more about like this was a terrible idea to pick this weekend to do anything with that has to do with risking the servers when a significant portion of of the studios are not even anywhere near even a skeleton crew. So I just hope I cleared that up a little bit. So yeah, back to communication. CIG needs to step it up, and I greatly appreciate what Silo's doing here. I left it exactly the way I found it. Once again, trying to be transparent. I'm not trying to drum up drama. I'm not trying to drum up some anti CIG thing here. I greatly like that when they take chances and things, when they are calculated and the community is able to take part in them. And the idea of having to do a test without the community's knowledge ahead of time is problematic. I think a simple message in game that says the servers are going to have an emergency change in the next 2 hours or something, or an event is taking place, at the very least, that is the bare minimum. And I would love to see the statistics on a limited notice event like that, even if everybody goes and runs into the servers that are on Discords and goes on a Spectrum and goes on a Twitter when they can get on there and post things saying there's a big event going to be tested right now on the CI on the servers on the PU servers is is unlikely to see a massive spike beyond what's right already going to be groups of people. And the greater issue is going to be people eclipsing that topic who have full loads in their C2s and their cats, and very soon their hull Cs in the next patch. In the next patch cycle, you're going to have people with millions of UEC on the line, and suddenly now you're throwing a volatile server at a live volatile server with no warning at them, and that is beyond not advisable. That is downright detrimental to the community trying to work together and have these common goals and bankrolling these large runs. So I strongly hesitate at any type of appreciation of this data collection. And I don't think people that are supporting it understand the ramifications. Once again, I'm not specific people, ignore the names. I'm just talking about the general topics here, and that's that. I do recommend, though, going in this thread and maybe posting up a reply to the original post or to Xylo's post, noting if you support or you're against it. Maybe I'm not seeing this in the right way. That's fair. That's fine. But right now, especially because I was impacted by it in a negative manner. I was one of the people that was on the servers when this happened. So, I mean, I guess you could argue that I have certainly have a bias glass I'm looking through here, a big one. So it's plausible, but I think I'm on the right side of this one. And once again, CIG, please get consistent with your communication. Have a better plan that's in place for testing. And remember, the PTU is there to be your friend. I can't speak for Evo. I'm not in it, etc., etc. But the PTU is one of the most important testing grounds we have. Full stop. Do not pass go. You don't even have to tell people there's new content on the PTU because there's no stakes. It's unlike live, where you're genuinely impacting people's millions of UEC. You're impacting people that just want to have a consistent experience with the few hours they have to play. Whereas on the PTU, you can just do these things, and it would be a lot more, not just doable, but forgivable if there is a major crash on the PTU. Because as a long-term PTU user, we like many, I turn to the PTU and I go, it's PTU. If I have, I'll still keep coming back. If I have 330Ks in an afternoon, I'll still keep coming back. I'm that excited to play new content. I'm that excited to test, and I enjoy checking out new builds and seeing the nuances of them and combing through patch notes and trying to figure it out myself alongside many others. You could easily have loaded up a PTU not tell us that there's a test on Xenothreat, and then bam, flip the switch and put Xenothreat active. You could have. Literally, you could put slight changes into a PTU build, and there will be many that jump onto the PTU just to check out what's new, and then bam, Xenothreat it. And there's your test in a completely virtually sandbox environment that has no impact on the live servers, and you still get your data. I know it's a different testing group because obviously we're going to put up with a lot more of these things, but we certainly have a less chance of rage quitting, and then you don't get your data for 24 hours. You only get your data for the first hour. When I was on live, I didn't stay on there. I don't. I'm curious how much actual testing data they even got today. Once again, my speculation. Once me and many others left the server, because the live server, there are consequences. If I go suit back up and I get back out there, I'm looking going, do I really want to risk my rare armor that I can't just go to a kiosk and get again? I don't want to keep character resetting. Do I really want to risk my ship that has all the stuff exactly the way I want it? I have a nice little armory set up and everything. Do I really want to risk all that? No. No, I don't. Whereas on the PTU, I'm gonna jump head first. Like, it's one thing on the PU if a goofy glitch gets you and that's that. You shake it off and you move on. It's another thing if, like, the server is sending you clear warnings that things are completely acting up and you keep taking risks and you're not going to get reimbursed by CIG. Like, plain and simple, if you start seeing Xenothreat messaging and the video and stuff all out of nowhere, and all of a sudden everybody's desyncing and it's going crazy, guess what? You're going to leave because you clearly know the server is off the rails. And then every time you log back into another live server, you're going, do I really want to risk this? Is this really worth it? And every single time I'm losing my progress because I can't complete my contracts. I can't complete these things. So that's my perspective on that. I hope I'm not too long-winded about it. I'm not very happy with how they handled things today, but I hope Xylo takes these points to heart. And as always, I love the constructive feedback. I hope that we can offer CIG, and I do applaud Xylo for taking this head on a weekend in the middle of the night, literally hopping on to talk about this and take some heat. That's kind of part of the thing that makes me respect the man. So I just wanted to put that out there. And once again, not advocating for reaching out to anyone specifically. I would I'm going to put the link to the forum posts, the thread in the description with no specific person highlighted on that link. Grab it, add your own replies, upvote what you think is right. I could be completely 180 from where your perspective is, and I value that. We're on to ship trespassing. Cover it. It is an important topic, and honestly, I think that there's not too much to cover here because it's being pulled from 3.20, or at the very least, it was pulled out of the release system, as was noted in the roadmap roundup. But I do want to talk a little bit about the edge cases that they referred to and like what I think they're kind of going for. So in the roadmap roundup, what we saw was some changes to the release, and shout out to Jake over at CIJ, Jake at Capella, for his fine work at kind of tracking all these different topics. Remember, the teams contact him, and he has to try to format it all and clearly communicate it, and him along with the community team kind of get a lot of this stuff put up on the boards and then put out into these transmissions. So, ship trespass. The team is taking additional time with this feature in order to further flesh it out, account for additional edge cases, and solve as many issues as possible. Therefore, we're removing this card from release view temporarily until we add our next major release column. Okay, so you're saying, why are you reading this to me? And also, I could have just did that myself. You're right. You could have. But let's go deeper. Things you're not going to see here in this tiny little blurb. And also point out why I'm saying it. I say it because I have been told by a lot of folks that there's a lot of folks who actually just listen to these audio tracks. And hello to those on the road, hello to those in the skies. Always wanted to say it that way. But therefore, I try my best to flesh out the content for those people, and also for people that are getting this translated in other languages or they use subtitles. my words hopefully will translate over. Whereas if they're just looking at text on a page and then I just kind of dig in, it would probably impact that situation pretty poorly for them. So let's talk a little bit about ship trespass. It's been a long awaited feature for many people. Just yesterday, Ash and I went on a massive run through Loreville and through a few missions, in particular one very successful, very great mission I want to get some content up on very soon. But even in 3.19.1, there's a major problem. Every single time you get off the ship, you have to frantically remember to hit the close button on the doorway that you come out of. Unless you have an animation on a ship that literally lets you out and then it immediately closes the door again. But the point stands that you always want to keep your doors locked and you want to keep your doors closed. That probably won't change for a long time, but there's absolutely zero consequences for somebody who wants to grief, harass, or just act silly in game right now, or just actually properly pirate ships, other than the actual crew dealing with the consequences of taking them down. And then there's actually some chance that you will actually you'll get a crime stat for knocking that person out or hurting them further to try to get them to respawn somewhere else that's not on your ship. So ship trespass was a commonly requested thing. So the person who's not on your ship legally or invited suddenly has a status that allows you to hurt them or relocate them in some way, and suddenly you're not the bad person. But it invites a whole rash of question marks. One, what if newbies are tricked onto a ship and they turn around and the newbies are then hurt or injured, literally killed, and so they have to respawn? There's like a plenty of different ways this could go wrong. So now we need to have a message that warns them before they get on the ship when they're anywhere near the ship that pops up a lot like you are about the trespass or you need a countdown timer. So when you get on the ship, there's like a 10-second, 20-second you are about to be charged with trespassing or you're about to get the status of trespassing, because just because they get the trespassing flag does not mean they get a crime stat. And that's another question. Should you get a crime stat? Maybe if you stay on the ship longer you do. But many people will game that system as well. If they break the door or they trick you into keeping the door open and they keep going on and off the ship, that'll keep resetting the timer in theory. So you can start seeing some of these edge cases they're describing. And that's not even getting into the deeper edge cases that really we should cover if we're going to talk about this. For example, soft dead ships. So the ships that have a chance of blowing up and then sitting there, and then you can rightfully or illegally loot them for loot, or go over to find out if people are okay. And you might not even blown up the ship. You were the good people in this situation. If you just start searching the ship for people to take care of and save, the last thing you want is a crime stat for doing the right thing. So there's a variety of different issues with that. When I think of soft dead ships, they offer a lot of major questions. For the Johnny do-gooders and the people that are even morally gray areaed, like, hey, I might be able to rescue people, ... and also get some loot out of this. Those people should not be as punished as the people that actually blew the ship up. And the people that are certainly there for the right reasons only certainly should not be hurt. Also remember, if you're incapacitated, you can't go assigning beacon contracts to come get saved. So you're going to have advanced scanning ships coming to find you, spending possibly 10, 15 minutes of their time alone, even if they're in the planetary system already, just to find you, come over, save you on that ship, and then for all the thank yous and everything you can and AUEC you can ship them to as a thank you to saving your gear and yourself. They also have to now deal with a crime stat. Now, if it's a soft crime stat in the sense of it's a crime stat 1 or a crime stat 2 that they can go pay at a kiosk, that's fine, but still it's less than ideal. So I think that this is what CIG is finding is when they start going down this rabbit hole of more and more and more possible, what they said in just a couple words, account for additional edge cases here in this little sentences, I can understand why they have these issues. I think it would have been very wise, though, to try to roll out a ship trespass system that was extremely basic, that doesn't give you crime stats, that simply flags people for the ability to incapacitate them and then kick them off the ship, etc., without getting a crime stat. That'd be like a first step in my eyes. So if you're not in the party, you're not, i.e., you're not welcomed on the ship, and you stay on there for more than 20, 30 seconds, you get a warning, and then you are flagged. You're not getting a crime stat, but so when you walk off the ship, you're not going to get attacked by NPCs. You're not going to go to Kelcher if you get knocked out or something and die. But you're not going to respawn over Kelcher. But the point is that that would at least be the first step, and then we could start building on that infrastructure and saying, okay, now we can start talking about fines. We can start talking about soft death ships and how that would work with them. We can talk about fines that are higher and lower based on the time you're on there. So if you're hiding on a ship and just attempting to grief, or you're literally waiting for the owner to come back just to steal their ship or something, or their gear, you get worse things, maybe even a crime stat, not even a loan for your other actions. So there's a lot of thoughts here. Also, I think the frustration that a lot of people are feeling is because 3.20 release view right now is extremely sparse. If you don't count Arena Commander, you don't count other things that may be hinting at possible other content for Star Marine, and possibly even in the future Theaters of War, like or at least some new name for it, a combined arms type gameplay. Uh, would be very interesting and exciting, etc., for some population of the game. But there are some, myself included, that are biased against these platforms, because my position is, and some is, that the PU should come first. And it seems like 3.20 is aside from the hull C and some changes to vehicle handling for wheeled vehicles based on the latest release view, which I'll include in the description, link to that. But always remember, you can go to the RSI website and just go to development and then click roadmap. From there, release view is the second option down. I would say that the hull, aside from the hull C and in the cargo docks and the surprise pull of Port Olisar, there's not much else on the bone here for people that are not into Arena Commander. Now, granted, kicking and screaming, I will be trying Arena Commander, and I will be going through these different special game modes that are in there, but I don't have high hopes. I think unless there's more surprises to be had for 3.20, which is suggestively in the near future, if rumors are to be believed, and literally CIG's own words are to be believed about trying to do 200 player tests and trying to stress test the servers just today with the Xenothreat surprise live server changes for 24 hours per Xylo. That was the first thing, if you jump past it, if you're using chapters that I was covering in this video. It indicates that they are planning to load the servers up with a lot of goodies for 3.20. I do not believe this release view is what we're going to get exactly in the next patch cycle. I believe that these are the things they're willing to commit to, even though they say tentative, and some are committed, some are tentative, etc., etc. I do believe that these are the things that they're signaling we know we can make. And ... some things we don't know if we're sure about yet. Like, for example, ship trespass got pushed back. Definitely, it looks like getting pushed back. And also some other things that are hidden for CitizenCon. They need their big things and lights for CitizenCon to show it off and make it right, make it exciting for people. On that note, I'm going to change gears one more time in this video, because I just don't think there's enough meat on the bone for an entire video about some of the rumors that have been coming out of recent bar citizens. But I can't help but notice I'm getting multiple people anecdotally talking in public on different discords in different places that are posting all over about some of the things they're hearing. And I wanted to highlight just a couple of them. And one of them is that the 3.20 patch may have a wipe, and it's due to dupe mechanics. So what we've been hearing is there is multiple methods to duplicate things that have been slowly been being attacked by CIG. And no, I am not going to discuss the different methods. I am not advocating for them in any way. But apparently, if they are egregious enough and CIG cannot sort them out fast enough, they will have to do a wipe for 3.20, which would be a major problem for not just the player base, but also for the economy team trying to get long term data on the economy right on the eve of the Hull C launch. So it's kind of like two steps forward, one step back, or one step forward, one step back, especially if we only get Arena Commander updates as our major things for 3.20 aside from the Hull C. Um, uh, yeah. Another thing that I've been hearing rumors about is that there's a very large ship, almost a quasi capital. Other people talk about it being the size of a Pioneer, possibly being launched at CitizenCon. Now, there's not much more here. It could just be another concept. It could be one of the many ships that are sitting in the that are literally sitting in the rundown, trying to get through the pipeline, trying to get out, that are all part of a backlog that goes back in some cases 6, 7, 8, and beyond years. So I mean, it's just it's very painful to hear some of these ships. It'd be wonderful to see some of them get through the pipeline. It would be really nice to see a surprise launch of a quasi cap. And honestly, in my eyes, something that's pioneer sized that would be wonderful and important coming once again on that road to Pyro we're on, no matter whether we like it or not, we really need the Liberator in game. And the major hurdle for the Liberator is the PDSs. It's literally one system that truly is holding the whole ship back. So if they can get those running correctly and figure out a way to get them to be reloaded and crew serviceable, um, remember there's two PDSs on the lib, one on the top, one on the bottom. Check the model before you write in the comments about it yet again, because I cannot tell you how many people reach out to me on Discord, on comments, on Reddit, challenging me on the Liberator. It has two PDSs on the ship, and it makes sense if you look at the firing arch and trajectories. That's why it needs them. Because if you were to come from below with a tally or something like that, or in a pair of eclipses, you could absolutely wallop it with size 9s, and that PDS on top would do nothing because it has no ability to shoot through the ship. So back to topic. I think the Liberator would be the wonderful surprise for this year, and it's desperately needed. And it's a ship that only has 2 crew that actually stay on the ship. It's a ferry style ship that does not have additional beds at this time. They could have snuck a few more in the ready room that's across the way for passengers, but more so, it's kind of a ferry that's meant to go from one system to the other, i.e., Stanton to Pyro or Pyro to Stanton, and that's it. It drops everything off, or later on, it'll be deployable, so you could drop this thing next to a outpost that you want to take, or an outpost that you want to defend, or load up with goodies. And suddenly now this ship has legs because you have a place where you can crash and you can create these midpoints that are your own private midpoints. I see the Liberator as like a real king of the skies on that type of work where you can jump around. Now, it's not to say the Hercules won't be amazing at that type of work too. It's just it won't carry anywhere near as much as the Lib. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. But I just think if I was to speculate, I would say something the size of a Pioneer that we could likely see this year that's in the backlog, checks all the boxes, and we desperately need it. And see, that's CIG's own words, that it was created to allow ships to get the smaller ships back and forth between Stanton and Pyro, a major priority for CIG leading into Pyro, being developed for 4.0, is the Lib. So that's kind of my position, is that I think we'll be seeing a Lib. No, I don't think we'll be seeing a large mining vessel, which is another speculation about this rumor. I don't think we'll be seeing a Pioneer. I wish I love Illis Kroner's beliefs and Consolidate Outlands positions. I think it's really cool. I love the idea of building mini outposts, even if it was just one type of outpost at first, and being able to build the modules on site for it and drag them over and build the thing. but I just don't see it as this year. I could eat my words. I could. CIG might rush it. Maybe they have something in their back pocket they've been developing for years. Another rumor that was talking about prefab housing systems that were buildable, like you'd see in a Bethesda game. Is the rumor I saw. So if that's possible, and they're still redeveloping that again, didn't look that way in the videos they were showing when they were making the NPC outpost. But if you could build a very basic base with a pioneer, that would be really dang cool. And I would love to have the pioneer in game. Although I just think it's extremely early for that type of thing. But with the basic services we have, it is plausible. It is even, it is possible, of course, but it just makes you step back and go, is this really what we need right now? Liberator's really what we need. We need organizations to be able to have strong lifting capacity and support each other and lift together. Um, and with a very small footprint ship with a reasonable price for an org. Don't forget. And of course, I'm referring to in-game purchasable too. Hopefully, very soon after it is released, a patch, at least a patch cycle after it comes out. Finally, it'll be buyable in game, so then I can recommend it to everybody with clear conscience. It's like, look, if you can't afford it with USD or whatever currency you use, suddenly now you have that option to buy it in game. You can pool your resources, make it a long-term purchase, and then bam, you've got yourself a single lib, and you're good to go. It was a lib and a couple Hercules. Now you're cooking for even a mid-sized organization. Uh, so some of the other rumors that I've seen is that there is server meshing needs for any additional systems, including Pyro. And one of the rumors directly referenced Pyro. Another one talked about just server meshing was needed, full stop, for any new system, and that makes sense. I mean, those kind of line up. Once again, I'm only picking the things that I seem to have at least more than one person or source that actually had anything on it, instead of just trying to stick to one set of sources. And also things that are relevant, that are more prioritized for our needs right now and in the near future. Another thing that was mentioned was that player housing is still being developed, and it is expected, and it is going to be instanced. So in an instanced environment, as a reminder, persistent hangers at least were described as being able to be sitting in the ether, so to speak. And the way I had to explain it to myself to understand CIG's position was, it's almost like you're in your own little elevator. So you open the door that's like a common door, but it goes to your place, it loads in your place, and it kind of pushes you out into the ether somewhere, and you don't see anybody else unless people are invited so you invite your friends, your org mates, etc. They have permissions to come in. They can come in, hang out, form up inside your own private hangar. You can tweak your ships, you can work on them, you can show them off, you can hang out in your ships, etc. You can also hopefully eventually get your stuff, like your hangar decorations, which of course are going to be for sale in game and on the website when they come back. And so don't sweat it. You'll have your own fish tanks just like the rest of us do. And you'll have lamps and all the legendary stuff you've been seeing people post over and over again online. You'll get. You don't need to go buy in some premium for them. And the idea is that is basically an instanced area, and only once you ask the ATC to go out the door, it goes to a real door, or when you go out the normal human-sized door to get back out of your hangar again to go to the shops or grab some more supplies or whatever you need to load up on for your ships, and then you come back, that kind of thing, and then it instantly goes back to the instance. All that out of the way. If you have player housing, its instance as well, I'm inferring that it works the same way. When you walk up to the place you picked, when you walk through that doorway, there could be 500 other players that also have a place at that same doorway and purchased or renting the same location in the housing market. But every single one of them could be in there at the same time you are, and none of you are impacting each other. None of you would even know each other exist unless you came out the doorway at the same time and noticed you both loaded in next to each other or something. And with the hangars, at least, the ATC would reject you until there's a live door available, and there's multiple doors, of course, on the outside of a spaceport or whatever location, station, etc., that you would have accessibility to. With player housing, it is entirely plausible that there would be 12 doors on a single floor of a condo building, and when you rent a space, you don't necessarily come out of the same door every single time, but you go out of a door whichever door is available at that moment that has nobody walking out of it. So you don't have to wait to go out your own door. Although I would think that might change the feeling of like the seamlessness of it. I would rather it be the same door, and then who cares if I have to walk around somebody or something once in a while that's AFK when they walk right out their door. Just a thought in the back of my mind though. So that, once again, we go back to edge cases. Player housing has its edge cases, just like the ship trespassing system. We have to trust that these will be worked out, these will be worked through as necessary, and it'll be very, very straightforward. So that's kind of all the things that I really have multiple sources for. There are some other things that I have seen. Ones I only have a single source for a rumor that the 600i rework is still being concepted. So it is something that is not currently actively being done, so to speak. Like, it won't be done next month or this year or something like that, but it's still being kind of back burner worked on, is the best description I can offer. That's a rumor from a single source. So that's about it that I have at this moment. I is this format a good format for these type of videos? Would you rather me package these up into a single videos for each topic? Let me know. Don't forget, there is chapters on these videos, so you can jump back and forth to different topics. I would prefer to kind of package these up into one bigger video that has chapters, and then you can jump around to the topics you want to cover, so it's a little cleaner. But if it's a little much throwing all this at you in a single video, let me know. Put it in the comments below, or reach out to me on Discord, of course. Or if this makes it onto Reddit, if I have to go through the QC checks myself and make sure that it looks good and it's solid. If there is no major issues, it ends up on the StarCitizen Reddit. Same deal. If you respond to me on there, if you prefer to stay there, any which way to get feedback to me, no matter which way, is greatly appreciated. I want to thank you all for sticking around. Thank you to my long-term subscribers. You have a wonderful night.